I have a lot of participation trophies from my Pee Wee sports days. Now, I wish I could say that most of the trophies from my youth are not do not fall into this category, but alas, that was the just Pee Wee sports world that I grew up in. Everyone got a participation trophy. Now, I thought about digging one of these trophies out of its obscure box somewhere in storage to use as a prop for this video, but that would have been a lot of effort for something of so little value. So, this special edition Captain America bobblehead will have to suffice as our stand-in. Just pretend that this is a soccer trophy, okay? Just pretend that he is a soccer trophy right there. Okay, so this trophy looks shiny and desirable, does it not? Like something that has value, like something that you have to earn. Well, that is an illusion. Under this very thin coating of gold paint is plastic. No surprise there. This trophy has no material value, and it has no perceived value either because it was not earned. Now, I got this trophy merely for showing up at soccer games. Unlike some people, I don't display trophies like this because, well, owning them is not an achievement. Uh, I had just spent time doing an activity, but I didn't even win the game. I might have played the game, though I spent a lot of time on the bench. But in fact, the year that I won this particular trophy, or the one that this is a stand-in for, uh, the year that I won this particular trophy I'm talking about in Pee Wee Soccer, I failed to win so aggressively that I kicked the ball into the wrong goal. I scored on my own team. That is just how good of a winner I was. Now, in spite of that mishap, I got the trophy anyway. To my little Pee Wee brain, I was like 5 or 6, that was an acknowledgement of how good I was at the sport, despite the evidence to the contrary. Now, I was already good enough to get the trophy, so why would I need to practice to get better for next year, right? What would be the point? I'm here to play, not to win. See, that's the problem with the culture that was handed participation trophies as kids, or in my case, a bobblehead that I got from my wife while we were dating. But the problem is that we just end up wanting to participate. We want to just play the game, but we never actually want to win. We never have any intention of winning the game. Now, an unforeseen consequence of that, unforeseen by some at least, is that this same culture makes a game out of everything. It all becomes trivial and meaningless. Work is just where you go to participate, not where you excel. I mean, they're going to pay you regardless of your performance, right? So why don't you just run out the clock until your shift ends? It's a great outlook on life. But dating in particular has become a sort of game in and of itself. Relationships have been reduced to a form of recreation. Single people like to play the field nowadays. They meet people, date around, all too often sleep around, and they try to have fun being carefree and just enjoy dating. But is that the point of dating, though? Is recreation? Dating solely for its own sake? I mean, we kick the ball around the field, passing it to whoever will receive it, hoping that we score a point for fun. Dating for fun has been normalized in Western culture, mostly as a means of pursuing premarital sex, again for recreation. But let's think about this. How healthy do you think it is to attach yourself emotionally and physically to somebody for fun, and then to just abruptly sever that connection? Odds are resulting in heartbreak. Furthermore, do you think that it is easy on your mental or emotional well-being to do that to yourself and to others over and over again? Does that sound like a fun or productive use of your time? Now, it sounds mentally and emotionally taxing to me. The fact that this is a regular practice in our culture today probably has something to do with the fact that our society is losing its ever-loving mind. Its populace is collectively torturing itself with this stupid hookup culture. Now, if you are dating just for sex, just for fun, might I suggest that you might not only be wasting your time, energy, youthful vigor, and love, but that you might also be fragmenting pieces of your heart? Sex exacts a heavy cost when attempted casually outside of marriage. Very heavy, and it is far too high a price to pay for a bit of waning fun that will be over in minutes, if not seconds. You will eventually and inevitably look back on such casual relationships and encounters with regret. That is going to happen. And you will consider the time and the parts of yourself that you wasted. I have yet to meet anyone with a past of meaningless flings and promiscuity who lacks significant regret and damage. The fun they had was not worth the price they paid, and they know it. That is the nature of a game where nobody wins but merely participates. It is a waste of time, energy, and emotion. Now, I, for one, did not want to just play the game. I wanted to win. And how does one win the game of dating? One has to score. And when we score, we must be aiming at the right goal. And that right goal is marriage. That is how I won. That is how you win. You do not date for fun. You date with a goal in mind. And the goal, the only legitimate goal of dating, is marriage. Single people nowadays have been conditioned to fear marriage and the family, and advised en masse to put it off for as long as humanly possible. Just have fun and enjoy life while you can, they are told. Once you get married and, God forbid, procreate and have children, then all the good parts of your life are over, and you may as well just sit around waiting for the sweet release of death. That's a fun outlook on life, isn't it? That's really how I want to live. But that is how life is portrayed to young people nowadays. This is part and parcel of a society of self-interested individuals who live in the most comfortable world that has ever existed. Most of us don't even know what it is like to struggle day in and day out with the most basic needs of survival. We live in comfort and luxury that is far excessive of any other culture throughout history, and we know recreation like no other culture ever has. Everything around us is meant to entertain. Everything around us. We have these devices that we spend so much money on. We have subscriptions to entertainment services. We have apps, television, video games, movie theaters, and streaming services. It's an endless cacophony of entertainment that is drowning out reality on a daily and freaking minutely basis. I mean, this is constant. It's bombarding us all the time. And so we come to live under the delusion that the goal of life is entertainment and recreation. But that is not the case. George Bernard Shaw said this very well. He said, "Hell is the place where you have nothing to do but amuse yourself." And he was 100% right about that. Now, I have been unemployed. I have been directionless. And I promise you, it is not an endless party. It's not what it sounds like to most of the people these days. All right. When you have no goal, nothing to strive for, no sense of purpose, significance, or meaning, joy cannot thrive. It simply cannot happen. It's very hard to be happy in those circumstances. It's really quite depressing when you fill your days trying to be entertained. Now, I promise you, if I had endless pockets and I didn't have to worry about money, and I had the option of living out my days just having a good time, I would not do it. I would not want to live that way. I would still want to do something meaningful that made my life worth living, and that would not be an endless days of movies, video games, and pizza. That would not be living. That would be comatose, okay? To make your life worth living, you have to have a purpose beyond yourself. Contrary to what most single, unmarried people are trained to believe nowadays, living for yourself, your own amusement, indulgence, and happiness is only a surefire way to end up miserable. Okay, putting off marriage and family, absent some other higher calling, only prolongs the misery. Statistically, those with large families, married with upwards of 3 to 5 kids, tend to be far happier in general and more content with their lives than those who live alone. And that is not coincidental. A father finds purpose in providing for his family. A wife and mother finds purpose in serving her children, as well as her husband. And both tend to value their family above themselves. They exist in the midst of a kind of love that they didn't know was even possible when they were as of yet unmarried. Our Father in heaven knew exactly what he was doing when he designed us for marriage and for family. We are based on his nature, though each member of the familial unit only makes up a small fraction of that nature. We cannot be complete in isolation. We just can't do it. The Father, the Mother, and the children is called the Trinity. Again, based on God's nature. This is how he designed us to operate. Okay, the father at the head, the mother who is the spiritual guide, the children who are the product of that love and that union, for whom the father and mother live and breathe. That is the trinity of the family. And look, I'm not claiming that every single person in the world must get married and have children. All right, the Apostle Paul himself was a single man to the day he died, but he still lived for a higher purpose than himself, for the highest purpose possible, in fact. And he remained single both because he did not have this passion for a woman, he did not have that sexual drive that propelled him to get married, and because single life made him freer to commit himself completely to God's mission. So yes, clearly there are exceptions to every rule. But the rule stands. If you have sexual desire, if you know what it is to burn with passion, marriage is the goal you ought to be striving for. Not sex, not recreation, marriage. And marriage is not evil. It should not be thought of as scary, though it is a big deal to be sure. And living in a marriage can be challenging at times, but then everything worth doing comes with its own challenges. And marriage is a challenge that is essential for a functional society. That much I promise you. And I'm certainly a proponent of young marriage. If you are of legal marrying age, if you are at least 18 in most states in the US, you can get married and start a life with someone. And I would argue that you should. Okay, don't wait for years and years just so that you increase your chances of falling into sexual sin. If you have the desire, marriage is the answer. So get hitched as soon as you can, before you become sexually active. So get married, live a life of substance, have lots of babies. Lord knows we need a whole lot more little Christians running around this world. And stop, for the love of all things good and holy, stop participating. Win the game and forget about your little participation trophy. I probably didn't have to actually throw that. Yeah, I broke it. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not yet, don't forget to check out my book, Back to the Basics of Love, A Single Christian's Guide to Dating, Sex, and Morality in the Secular World. And if you appreciated what you heard, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. All three would help me out immensely, more than you know. And if you absolutely hated what you heard, well, I can't please everybody. Thank you so much for your time, and God bless.